Okay, you have seen the headlines. You've heard the names Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound. These new weight loss drugs have completely taken over the conversation about health and weight, and they promise a medical revolution in a simple weekly injection. But what is actually going on inside your body when you take them? To find out, we're going to follow the entire journey, from that very first shot to the final critical choice every single patient has to make.
So this is it, right? The question on everyone's mind. For the very first time, we have a treatment that's not surgery, but can get results that are pretty close. But is it really as simple as a weekly shot that just melts the pounds away? Well, to answer that, we have to cut through all the hype and start with the actual data.
Let's start with just one number, 22%. That is the average total body weight loss for people on the most effective drug out there right now. That is a genuinely staggering figure. But it also tells us something important. This isn't some magic wand. It's a really powerful medical intervention with very specific, measurable results. So, to really wrap our heads around this whole revolution, we're going to follow the journey of a single hypothetical patient. This is going to let us see not just the incredible promise, but also the challenges and the very real costs, we're talking biologically, financially, and personally, that come along with this kind of transformation. So where does this whole journey begin? Well, you might be surprised. The most profound effect of these drugs isn't what they do to your stomach, but what they do to your brain. It all starts by silencing something patients have started calling food noise. This quote right here, it really captures a powerful neurological event. See, food noise is that relentless chatter in your head about your next meal, about cravings, about calories. What these drugs do is they basically turn down the volume on that chatter by targeting the master control center for appetite in your brain. And all of a sudden, eating healthy feels less like a constant battle of willpower and more like just a natural choice. So, how on earth do they do it? Well, they mimic a natural hormone called GLP-1 that your gut releases after you eat. Your body's own GLP-1 is like a messenger that runs to your brain and says, hey, you're full, but it only lasts for a couple of minutes. The absolute genius of these drugs is that they've been engineered to stick around. They send that exact same full signal, but not for minutes, for an entire week. This whole process works like a three-pronged attack. First, up in the brain, they quiet those hunger signals we just talked about. Second, down in the stomach, they literally hit the brakes on digestion, so food stays there longer, which makes you feel physically full. And finally, in the pancreas, they have this really smart effect. They help release insulin only when you need it, which is great for your metabolic health. Okay, so that's the science. Now let's see how this all plays out in the real world. We're going to map out the journey of our hypothetical patient. Let's say they're starting at 120 kilograms, that's about 264 pounds, over a typical 18-month treatment. You know, the journey doesn't actually start with dramatic results. The first 4 months are this slow titration phase, where the dose is increased bit by bit to get your body used to it and manage side effects. The real action happens between months 4 and 12. That's when our patient hits the full dose and sees that steady, significant weight loss. But then, usually after about a year, a plateau hits. The body is smart and its metabolism adapts to the new, lower weight. And listen, the specific drug you're on, it matters a lot. For our 120-kilo patient, semaglutide, that's the active ingredient in Wegovy, will lead to an average loss of about 18 kilograms or 40 pounds. But tirzepatide, which is in Zepbound, that drug targets a second hormone receptor, pushing the average loss to a remarkable 27 kilograms. That's nearly 60 pounds. For a patient, that difference is absolutely life-changing. Okay, this brings us to the most critical part of the entire story. You've gone through the journey, you've lost the weight, so now what? The answer reveals this fundamental and often misunderstood truth about obesity being a chronic disease. Patients basically face this stark choice, as you can see here. You can stay on the drug and you'll maintain the weight loss, but that probably means a lifetime of weekly shots and, of course, the significant cost. But if you stop, that biological brake comes right off. The food noise in the brain can come roaring back as your body fights to return to its previous, higher set point. And get this isn't just a theory. The data from clinical trials is crystal clear. Within just 1 year of stopping the medication, patients on average regain 2/3 of the weight they lost. That single fact completely reframes the whole thing. It's not a course of treatment you finish, it's a chronic management strategy. A lot like taking medication for high blood pressure. So,
if this is a lifelong therapy for a chronic disease that affects over 1 billion people around the world, what does that mean for our healthcare systems? This is where the story explodes from the individual patient to the entire globe. Which brings us to the World Health Organization. They recently sparked this intense debate by adding these drugs to their essential medicines list. On one hand, it's a huge step forward. It validates obesity as a serious disease and pushes for access for everyone. But on the other hand, critics are sounding the alarm, warning that the staggering cost could cripple health budgets, and that maybe we're just medicalizing a problem that's really rooted in our food environment.
And this field is not standing still. A fierce competition is underway. Eli Lilly is testing a triple G drug that could push weight loss even higher. Roche has a drug that showed incredibly fast results in early trials. And Amgen is working on a version that might only need a monthly injection, which would totally change the patient experience.
Okay, we've covered the science, the patient's journey, and the huge global debate. So after all of that, what's the single most important thing to take away from all this?
Here it is. Calling these weight loss drugs is fundamentally missing the point. They are not just appetite suppressants. They are powerful metabolic regulators that literally rewire the communication between your gut and your brain. This represents a complete paradigm shift. We're finally treating obesity not as a failure of willpower, but as the biological disease it actually is. Which leaves us with this final question. Are these drugs a true medical miracle, offering real hope to millions suffering from a chronic disease? Or are they a high-tech crutch that lets us avoid confronting the deeper societal problems with our food, our environment, and our health? The answer is probably both. And figuring out how to navigate that is the great challenge ahead.